Hey everyone, Dr. Lisa Holland here with episode 44. In this episode, it is the solstice. It's a special solstice episode. We are halfway through 2019, and I got to tell you that this particular solstice kicked my ass. We're going to be talking a little bit about that, but it's not in a bad way. It's actually pushing me almost through birth at that point of transition when you've been working so hard and then all of a sudden you're like, what? I've got to push now? We are in the final push, guys. And in this episode, we're talking about alpha females and what we're doing and the fact that it's not necessarily the alpha female. We're actually evolving into something new. Listen up to Owning Her Health right now.
Welcome to this episode of Owning Her Health with your host, Dr. Lisa Holland, PT. Join Lisa as she starts the conversation on what it really takes to become a healthy, wealthy, and whole CEO of your life. Listen in to real talk by real lady leaders in all walks of life as they open up on personal health stories, wealth, career, and feminine abundant living. Learn how to grow by owning your body, expanding your mind, and aligning your soul with the purpose only you can pursue in this world. Happiness begins with owning her health right now.
All right, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Owning Her Health. So, Dr. Lisa here, and it is solstice week. We're a week away from the full moon that we have, and then we ended the week with summer solstice here in the northern hemisphere. And winter solstice, or going into the winter in the southern hemisphere. And I just think that's really, really important to note that this is just a mid-year solstice. There's a huge shift, but the energy is a bit different in many, many ways, yet the same, which leads me into the whole conversation about energy in general. I don't know if this week you saw my blog post over at drlisahollandpt.com, but I was talking about the alpha female paradox and how we're kind of in a little bit of a confusion right now because we don't really know what a strong, quote unquote, strong woman is. We're calling her the alpha female, or that one that I guess is having success. I'm not quite sure by the research I was doing. But, you know, I saw everything in prepping for this episode, from a woman's in high heels standing on a man in a suit's head with his head crushed to the floor, to a Barbie doll in leopard print, you know, the typical blonde hair, blue-eyed Barbie doll being like, you know, I don't care what anybody thinks, to the athletic female, you know, sitting in that sports bra with strong muscle tone. But what I didn't see was me. And, you know, it got me thinking, you know, what am I? What am I in this whole entire thing, right? Because to be perfectly honest, I don't really fit in the mold, yet I am an alpha woman. If you were to go on my Instagram, I had put on, you know, the characteristics of an alpha woman or alpha female or whatever they're calling, you know, whatever the variation is. And, you know, basically she's pro-woman. She cultivates a life she enjoys. She makes her move. She doesn't put herself down. What are some of the other things? She calls people out. She knows when to walk away. She doesn't compete for attention. She creates her reality. She invests in herself. She dares to go for it. She knows the life she lives may be intimidating, but she lives it anyway. And that's from Business Rules for Women, which I had reposted and borrowed over there on June 16th. You could go on over there at Dr. Lisa Holland PT on my Instagram. And I kind of have that vibe on there, you know, the Goddess Wisdom Mastermind, but I'm talking about smart. I'm talking about a smart woman. I don't necessarily see that on the list that they're writing there by Gabrielle DeCoulis. Not that she thinks by any chance that that's not part of it, but like, I guess when I'm thinking of it, I just think she's this really smart woman who is using a certain energy. She's using the feminine divine as her leadership style. So that's not necessarily devoid of her masculinity. In fact, it's her healthy masculinity in the female container. So what can I explain this as. Basically, if you went over to my blog post this week about the alpha female paradox, you see this kind of made up story I made about Wonder Woman and Batman and Superman. And so if you are into any sort of comics, you know that historically Batman and Superman are always like, piss wars against each other, right? They're like a love-hate frenemy kind of thing, competition. Depends on what movie you saw or what year, right? They were all friends in the League of Justice cartoon Saturday morning, but as we've gone on, they have this issue, right? And it's kind of that idea of like, who's the alpha, right? Who's the alpha in the Hall of Justice? Well, you know what? In comes in my story Wonder Woman, and you know what? She's starting to get a lot of attention in the League of Justice. She's starting to like show up and be doing stuff, and she's got these strategies, and she's kind of like so she's been getting some awards. So I gave this kind of funny story. Again, this is where my brain goes. This is my, this is my creativity about this image I saw on the internet, and it was kind of funny just like feeling it out, the immediate feeling I had gotten from that. Because like I said, I'd been looking at all these different things of what exactly is this alpha female. And I came across this picture on Upsplash by King Lip. And there was these two pictures. And in one of them, Batman's kind of like on his knees in front of Wonder Woman. And in another one, she's like has her mouth covered in horror, looking at them go at it, Batman and Superman. And I got to thinking, I was like, what did you see? What did you see when you first looked at this episode or this image right here? And I think two different mindsets in terms of the alpha female, or it depends on who's seeing it to maybe delve into this idea in terms of masculinity, femininity, what that means, what the players in the conversation need to be. Because it's very, very easy to look at that image and say, oh, they're fighting over Wonder Woman, right? They're fighting over Wonder Woman. And I made up, you guys go over to the blog over at drlisahollandpt.com, and you can kind of like read what my explanation was, because I wrote it in a way of how I think things are going down right now in terms of, there's really, really good people. They're really, really strong leaders. And some of them are men, and some of them are women, and some of them are transgender, and some of them are, they don't necessarily, they're just fluid, and we're all really confused. I think we're just looking at a society that's really confused about what was the stronger, the stronger human and what that looked like. And I know we've crossed a lot of barriers, but what is really the idea of strength? I think that's what's really getting challenged now. And so, mid-year through this, we got this full moon energy, and it's a really strong energy. This June is a really, really shifting time. I mean, I feel like I'm always saying this because we've been in a shift, guys. We've honestly been in a shift that I've been feeling. And I don't know about any of you guys, you medicine women and conscious men out there, that have felt this. This has been since about I want to say 2010, January 2010, but it's really like 2009. I feel like it's been like a call to like get going on something and do something new. And that was like the last phase. And I feel like we're closing out this 2019 right now. This mid-year 2019 is kind of like closing out the mid-year of 2009, at least for me in my life. And it's like this 10-year cycle, moving on 10 years. And if you go the journey of the tarot cards, and that idea of the heroine or the hero's journey, it's kind of like that same idea, the end of a cycle. And anybody who's with me with the Curvy Hustle knows that we describe life like that. We're never behind. We sometimes go on tangents. Life calls us to the tangents. It is the strength, I think, and why I really try to advocate for this curvy hustle mentality, wherever you fall in that spectrum, to really solidify this end of this toxic masculinity and the end of this toxic femininity in favor of healthy femininity and healthy masculinity, which in union looks very much the same, but might be packaged in a million different packages. And I think once we get that right, we're going to realize that, how silly we were to have these preconceived notions about how things, strong versus weak needed to look, what success looked like, how you had to act in order to be, quote unquote, labeled successful, what your bank account needed to look like, what you needed to term as wealth. And so, I think that when we're looking at all these different images of the alpha female right now, we're seeing this huge transition, and it's the end of this cycle. Like I said, there's been this shift into this sort of gender neutrality. The Me Too movement of the last couple, the last year, really 2018, right? And then 2019 coming in. It just, again, if you're sensitive to all of this energetic shift, you've been getting you're nowhere, anywhere at all you thought you'd be back in 2009. Like when you thought ahead in 10 years in 2009, 2010, you totally saw something different. And if you had to think back, there's really not been, again, at least I'm speaking from personal experience and also working with other women rising up and other really strong men who are really embracing their femininity, their healthy femininity side, to understand that they could be a little softer, they could be a little vulnerable. It doesn't mean they're weak. It doesn't mean they're unmanly. It just means that they are a little bit more conscious, that we're all a little bit more conscious, that we're being a little bit more protective of our energy. And I don't think anybody would have seen themselves in this other than now. I don't think we had the comprehension 10 years ago. I think what we were seeing was that, that athlete, that athletic female, the thing that bore the whole CrossFit image of a woman doing CrossFit. And, but we went to the extremes, guys. We went to the extremes. Why? I don't know why, because we tend to do that as human beings, at least here in the West. But you give somebody a little bit and it goes crazy, and all of a sudden we're seeing women wearing shirts like, "Hey, I was in CrossFit and I pooed myself and I peed myself," and that's a good thing, because they're doing their double ups and they have pelvic floor weaknesses, right? And it was looked at like, yay, I'm so cool, and it's again, just. That is toxic. That is toxic masculinity in a female. That's toxic masculinity if that looks cool in your environment, whatever your package. So what are some of the examples of toxic femininity? Well, toxic femininity, I think, is what we're seeing in terms of, I think, really extreme feminism. That would be that image I spoke of in terms of having to step on men's heads and the hating of men and hating of all masculinity and men in general, and men are jerks. And because you've been wounded, lady, because you've been wounded, that's how you feel that way. And very, very rightfully so. Maybe you have been subject to, we all have in various degrees. The wounded masculine. What does that look like? I think we're finally seeing a decade later, we're actually many decades later, right? Because we had these images of this kind of hating men kind of coming out of the 60s maybe, and the 70s revolutionary woman, that strong woman of Charlie's Angels, and that taking it from the 60s of the Mary Tyler Moore Show. Ooh, she's a single woman and she's in business. She's in career of this journalism career and stuff like that, and how that was, and she doesn't have any kids. And then we kind of morphed, right? And so we're seeing that now we're having this resurgence of the toxic masculinity and the pull out of the Me Too thing, and we're seeing that total other polarity of this wounded masculine and this guy who's crashing because he doesn't know. He doesn't know he's maybe getting depressed. He's burnt out in doing any of the manly man things of before. He's not looking at he's not being inspired as much by, Naked and Afraid. Or if he's looking at that, he's kind of thinking that's cool, but I don't have to prove myself anymore. It's that idea of the hunter and gatherer and guy getting, jumping on everybody else and climbing up that mountain to be by himself, just tumbling down. That tower is tumbling down. And so the masculinized woman is tumbling down with them. And the wounded feminine is tumbling down with them. And the only one that has her shit together, quite honestly, is the woman that's been doing the work. She's the woman that's been doing the work, the alpha female, but in the healthy alpha female form. I'm not going to be tooting my own horn, but I think she looks a little bit more like me than any of the extremes. She's the one that's kind of got the kids, got the career, but doing it her own way. She's the mompreneur who might have a real good MBA under her belt, a JD under her belt, but you know what? She hung up her lawyer gear 10, 15 years ago and decided to pop out 5 kids and totally be driving them every morning to school. She's the one coming into menopause right now, totally into needing her to take care of herself because she burnt herself out, because she took her fire that really was into her career and her convictions and her core values, and she took it into a different realm of hearth and home, but it didn't necessarily fulfill her 100%. And she might even have gotten depressed because she's realizing that, wondering, did she make a mistake? I'm going to tell you right now, those of you who were like me, who realized you're no Martha Stewart, nor do you want to be. You're no Oprah Winfrey, nor do you want to be. You're no stay-at-home mom, nor do you want to be. You're no 100% career-driven in the sense of the industry you're in, the way that they expect you to. And you decided to make something brand new. Did I explain the lady in yoga gear like me, wearing her mala beads, maybe having a couple degrees on her wall? No. Did I explain the former corporate lady who stayed at home and now all of a sudden is building up? Her kid had some illness and she found essential oils, and now she's building an essential oil empire. No, not necessarily. Did I explain the transgender woman who is kicking butt, starting a membership site and having a clothing line? No, not in particular. Did I describe the guy? Did I describe the guy right now who's a total kick-ass stay-at-home dad who has a gig on the side because he's starting to work from home and networking and using some of his skills? Not necessarily. But actually, the reality is, it's all of them, guys. The alpha female is in the alpha male right now, merging, forming. They're kind of like in this chrysalis. They're in this cocoon, deciding how the butterfly is going to be coming out. And you might think I'm crazy, but if you're one of them, if you are in the feminine form right now, owning her health, because you've been doing the work for the past decade, when you first heard the calling, you've been getting your life together. You might have gone through a really big health challenge, and then you went through the recovery. You went into the system, and you saw that it wasn't working for you. So you went and used your smarts and your research and your colleagues and your last degree, and you found something else. If you're in advertising, if you're in corporate America, you might have gone through your own, again, illness in that system. Maybe you were seeing a lot of the ads or things with distaste. You were tired of the good old boys club. You were tired of having to, like, pretend you don't have your period, not being able to talk about it as if it's a weakness. And you're in there and you went off and you decided, you know what, I'm going to be burnt out. I had a little mini breakdown and I'm going to, go do something for a year. And all of a sudden you're finding yourself creative more so than ever in your freaking life while you're pulling up weeds or you're, at home decorating your home or popping out a couple kids or adopting a kid or doing some service work or whatever. And you're having this resurgence in your life. And you're like, oh my God, I'm going to start my own media company. It's going to be totally different than anybody's seen. It's going to be looking at people for talent. I'm not necessarily going to be, it's going to be totally fair in terms of, a gender neutrality kind of thing. It's like bring your best game. We're going to have men and women interchange. We're going to have different ages. Maybe, because here's the thing. The people that have been doing the work, the true alpha females right now, I think there's another name for them. And I'm going to borrow the name given Barbara Marx Hubbard, who recently passed away. And I'm going to say this is what she was talking about in terms of the evolutionary woman. See, she was seeing that, you know what? There's spirals in the whole entire evolution. When I found Barbara's work, I was like, hello, been talking about this. We go in cycles. We live in cycles. We're looking at our body in cycles. When the moon energy comes in, it's a cycle. When my menstrual period lines up, I'm healthy to the cycle. When we're planting crops historically and calling this the strawberry moon and doing things because we notice things that were birthed, it's on a very, very co-creator cycle. And that's the feminine vibe, guys. That's the feminine vibe. And in this new resurgence of it, after we've, been raped and persecuted and been used for our body parts for pleasure and been used for our body parts for prestige, and after all of that, stripping ourselves away, getting our education. Okay? Nowhere in history has this revolutionary change Barbara's been talking about where we're at a point between the biotechnology, the tech in general, the power we have in our education, our variants, the infusion of us in the fields of medicine, in the fields of corporate America industry, fashion, media, in healthcare, in all across the board, all of these boundaries. Nowhere in time has a woman who is in her own movement from mother to matriarch, moving into that matriarch role, has she had as much power? I mean, think about it right now. I'm there, right? I'm going to be 47 this August. I've lived a whole life. I know enough of what the crap I'm not going to take anymore. I know enough of what I want. I know enough what I do want and don't want in my life. I have enough of a career under my belt that I'm mentoring other men and women in my field as well as tangent fields. And nowhere in history have I been in this much space of power and potential talking to you across the globe, possibly. And I'm recording this in my home on the East Coast of America right now, whenever the hell I want to. And I'm influencing you possibly. Nowhere in history has someone who I'm doing this right now with hardly any money invested. At this point in the game, this Mac computer is a couple of years old. This microphone's all paid for. So I'm basically, in essence, don't even need the money right now to get this to you, except for my, podcast hosting and whatever. Nowhere in history have I, in this space, in this realm of my seasons of life, had this ability to influence over the entire human race. And that's what the evolution is. It's not a revolution, ladies. It's not a fight for us to fight. In fact, this is the story of us right now. We communicate We congregate. We collaborate. We convene. And yes, we do talk a lot. But you know what? We know how to listen. We know how to listen. We know how to gather the troops to take care of our children. We know that when the medicine becomes poison, we don't give that to our families. We know we don't cut off body parts just for the sake of cutting off the damn body part and making it the bionic man and the bionic woman because it's cool. We know now. We've been listening. We've been working. We've been evolving into what Barbara was speaking about in terms of the next evolution of human being. And here's the thing. It's not all so that we all become the Wonder Women and you all come to our planet or to our island in some Bermuda Triangle nobody can see and everything's ruled by us alone. We want to rule with the men. We want to rule with everyone who does not define themselves in a binary way. We want to work with the smart people. We want to work with the compassionate people. We want to work with the evolutionary thinking people, the visionary people. We want the people who have solutions. We don't care when you have to work because you want to be on the sideline of your kid's game, because you want to be doing the most important thing in this world right now, which is to make sure the next generation feels loved, to make sure the next generation doesn't get spoiled and too content and doesn't see when there's another Nazi Germany coming on again. We want a generation that's open. And you know what? We've got some people. We've got some people that are heart-led. We've got some people who their nervous system is sensitive to this crap because it's a stressful, crappy world sometimes. But there's beauty here. And you know who's seeing it? It's the women I'm talking about. They see the beauty in the crud. They see the garbage on the side of the road and they take it home and replenish it and they refurbish it and they sell it on eBay for twice the amount and make a profit. That's who I'm talking about right now. And you know what? They don't come in any package. They can be anybody who thinks that revolutionary way, and they will be. But they need to be out there now talking because the ones that know how to talk about this are the ones in the feminine vibe right now. Now, that could be in whatever package, but for the most part, it's women. It's women who are revolutionary in the way that they're evolutionary. We don't need to fight. Revolution means fight. Revolution needs war. We're not going to do that. We're going to use strategy. We're going to use curvy hustle. We're going to analyze our system. We're going to invite the men who have a certain skill set to do what they got to do for us. If it's to knock something down, we're going to ask them to do it. So I can do it, but I don't want to do it because this guy does it better. If it's a woman that can do that better than me, I'm going to ask the woman to do it. If it's anybody in between, I'm going to ask anybody who can show up with the talent I need right now, who has the compassion, the vision, whatever it is we need to come together. That, my friends, is going to be up in feminine leadership style. That's the curvy hustle coming up and rising up because you know what? There's a lot of wounded men right now that need you. There's a lot of wounded women right now that need you. And you know what? As soon as you raise that energy up, it is the poison. It is the kryptonite for that Superman. Okay, that is toxic right now, for that toxic trigger in him, because he had no other alternative before. He had no other alternative before. When that lady gets all wild and she's crying and she's too emotional and she's too emotionally attached to things and she's worrying too much what her neighbor thinks when she's got to make a decision or her employee's going to think when she's got to cut them off or what somebody thinks when they think she's crazy for thinking in a visionary way that she knows in her heart will work. It's for that woman who needs somebody to know that there's a different way, that you got to cut that down, not out, but there's a place for the mask. There's a place for the masculine mask. He knows how to do that. That energy that knows how to do that, who knows that I need to go out for the hunt, I need to go gather, I need to do this for my family or for my ideas because I'm going to help the world. I'm going to help my home. It's not selfish. It's not selfish. And you know what? That healthy masculine, that healthy feminine is a collective consciousness of universalis that Barbara called it. It is human universalis, and it's homo universalis is what she called it. But just think about it. It's a human being. It's a human being where I don't know if you have a vagina or a penis, but I don't care. You're going to use your vagina and your penis the way that your hormones tell you to use it, your hormonal balance. And you're going to have more balance because when you get home, whoever got home first is the one one that's cleaning up the crap and starting dinner. And whoever leaves first is the one that's pulling and getting the garbage to the end of the driveway. And whoever comes up with the best idea at that damn boardroom table is the one who they're going to follow. That's what I'm talking about, ladies. That's the energy that this solstice brought in. And gentlemen, conscious men, that's the solstice energy right now. So if you're feeling like crap right now, I'm going to say congratulations. You know why? Because you're rising up. This is the final push. This is the final push, this second leg of 2019. 2020 is going to be a full cycle. The end of 2019 is going to be a full 10 years since that 2009 when my guru, Sri Dharma Mitra, said to us in our New Year's letter, listen, you better watch out. There's going to be a blackout. And you know what? It was funny when this big blackout happened, when I happened to be training with him in the end of 2012 in New York City. It was like, ooh, is this what he was talking about? But this wasn't what he was talking about. I mean, those are just little precursors. It's going to be the blackout in terms of our darkness and in terms of us really having to make way with what we have left. It's going to be us being stripped down. It's going to be us in a completely different place than we thought we were, and yet feeling stronger and more empowered and more like that youthful self we almost forgot, that one before we were anybody's anything, that 6-year-old, that 7-year-old, the one that was, even before, if there was abuse, the one that was there and pure and born into this soul warrior goddess form. I welcome you, evolutionary woman, to the brand new world. And you know what? It will be beautiful. Call up, stand up, rise, become who you are. Use the things you have. Don't worry about your peers. Get out there with your good ideas. Get a voice out there, because the people that need to see you in whatever shape and form they need to hear you and learn from you. You are their mentor, and I welcome you into this tribe.
Thank you for listening into this episode of Owning Her Health with Dr. Lisa Holland, PT. To learn more about her personal and professional development service, visit her online at drlisahollandpt.com.